label styles. This tutorial demonstrates how to define the behavior, appearance, and content of labels using label styles. Exercise 1, Creating a label style. In this exercise, you will create a label style. Open Labels 5a.dwg. Zoom into station 0+000 of the main street alignment. Examine the design speed label. You will use this label style as a basis to create a new label style that will display the design speed without the station label. The design speed labels will be placed at locations where the stations are already labeled. Note: design speed information, including the station at which the design speed has been applied, is available in the Alignment Properties dialog box on the Design Speeds tab. Select the design speed label. Right-click. Select Edit Alignment Labels. In the Alignment Labels dialog box, in the Design Speeds row, in the Style column, click. Note: you use the Alignment Labels dialog box to create and edit label sets or to import an existing label set. In the Pick Label Style dialog box, click the arrow next to. Click Create New. Note: Copy Current Selection uses the format of the current style as a basis for the new style. You will learn about the Create Child of Current Selection option in Exercise 2, using a child label style. In the Label Style Composer dialog box, on the Information tab, specify the following parameters. Name, Design Speeds, Inline. Description, small design speed label perpendicular to the alignment. Click the General tab. On the General tab, you can specify the settings for the overall label style, including the visibility, layer, and plan readability. For this exercise, accept the default settings on this tab. You can turn on or off the visibility of the individual label components on either the Summary or Layout tab. Click the Layout tab. On the Layout tab, you specify the content of the label style. A label can be made up of one or more components, each of which can have separate properties. Examine the contents of the component name list. Each component is shown in the preview pane on the right side of the dialog box. You can use the buttons to the right of the component name list to create, copy, or delete label style components. These components were copied when you created the style from the existing station over speed style. In the component name list, select Station. In the General collection, change the visibility to false. Notice that your change is shown immediately in the preview pane. This pane is useful when you are designing a label style. If you do not like what you see in the preview, you can change it before saving the style. Note: to delete the station component, select it from the component name list, and then click. In the component name list, select Design Speed. Specify the following parameters. General. Anchor component, line. Anchor point, end. Text. Attachment, bottom right. X offset, 0.0 mm. Y offset, 1 mm. In the text collection, for the contents property, click the value column. Click. You can use the Text Component Editor dialog box to define the content and format of a label style text component. The properties list displays the available properties that can be displayed in a label component. When you select a component from the list, the applicable values are displayed in the table below. In the Text Component Editor dialog box, in the Preview pane, select the design text. Press Delete. Click the property block. After you have selected the property block in the preview pane, you can modify the specific values that will be applied to the property. In the properties list, select Design Speed. Change the precision value to 0.1. Click to apply the new precision value to the block in the preview pane. Notice that in the block of code, P0 has changed to P1. In the preview pane, select the speed text. Click the Format tab. You can change the style, justification, font, and color of each text component. With the text in the preview pane selected, change the font to Times New Roman. Click OK. In the Label Style Composer, notice that the speed font is different from the design speed value. The design speed value font did not change because it was not selected when you changed the font. Click OK to close the Label Style Composer, pick Label Style, and Alignment Labels dialog boxes. Pan along the main street alignment to view the format of the new label style. Label style created from an existing style. Exercise 2, using a child label style. In this exercise, you will create a child label style that derives its default settings from an existing label style, or parent. Create a child label style. Note: this exercise uses labels 5a.dwg with the modifications you made in the previous exercise. Pan to station 0 plus 080 on the West Street alignment. Control plus click the station label 0 plus 080. Right-click. Click Label Properties. In the Properties palette, on the Design tab, click the value for major station label style. Select Create/Edit from the list. In the Label Style dialog box, change the style to perpendicular with line. Note: make sure that you select perpendicular with line, and not perpendicular with tick. Click the arrow next to. Click Create Child of Current Selection. In the Label Style Composer, on the Information tab, change the style name from perpendicular with line to station emphasis. On the Layout tab, under Component Name, select Station. Under Text specify the following parameters. Text height, 5.00 mm. Attachment, middle left. Click OK twice. The station is now displayed in large text that is attached to the end of the line. The size and position of the text are properties of the new style, station emphasis. The contents of the text, and the color and length of the line are properties of the parent style, perpendicular with line. Press ESC to deselect the label. In the drawing, Control plus click the label 0 plus 100. Change its style to perpendicular with line, using the Properties palette. Notice that in the style collection displayed in the Properties palette, the new style is indented under its parent. You can also see this placement in Tool Space, on the Settings tab, under Alignment Label Styles Station Major Station Perpendicular with Line. Parent and Child Label Styles. Notice that in the drawing, the STA0 plus 080 and STA0 plus 100 label text are different sizes, and the text and line are aligned differently. A child style shares its basic properties with the parent style from which it was created. If a property value changes in the parent style, then the change is also applied to the child style. If a property value changes in the child style, the parent style is not affected. By creating a child style, you have created the station display you need, without affecting other parts of the drawing. If you had instead changed the properties of the parent style, it would have automatically changed the appearance of any other major stations using that style. Next, you will set the parent style to override the text setting in the child style. Override the child label style. In Tool Space, on the Settings tab, expand the Alignment Label Styles Station Major Station Collections. Right-click Perpendicular with Line. Click Edit. In the Label Style Composer dialog box, click the Summary tab. Expand the Component 1 property. In the Text Height row, click in the Child Override column. in the child override column, is displayed, indicating that the previously independent property of the child has been overridden by the parent. Click OK. Notice that the labels now use the same text size. The STA 0 plus 080 label text is now the same size as the STA 0 plus 000 label because the text height of the parent style has overridden that of the child style. The alignment of the line is still different because the text attachment point of the child style was not overridden. Styles, with child text size overridden by parent. Exercise 3, Controlling label appearance using layers. In this exercise, you will use layers to change the color and visibility of labels. Examine how parent object layer state affects label visibility. Note: this exercise uses labels 5a.dwg with the modifications you made in the previous exercise, or you can open labels 5b.dwg from the Tutorials Drawings folder. On the West Street alignment, zoom and pan to the area between stations 0 plus 100 and 0 plus 120. Click station label 0 plus 120 to select all major station labels. Right-click. Click Properties. On the Properties palette, notice that the alignment station labels are on layer C road text. If you look at the properties for the alignment itself, you will see that it is on the C road layer. Click Home tab Layers panel Layer List. Next to the C road layer, click to turn off the C road layer. On the command line, enter Regen. The alignment and its labels are hidden. This happened because, while labels are independent objects on a separate layer, their visibility is linked to the layer of the parent object, C road. Turning off the layer of an object also hides the labels of that object, even if they reside on a different layer. Note: the blue line that remains in place of the alignment is the polyline in the externally referenced drawing, from which you created the alignment in the Adding Labels in Groups exercise. Click Home tab Layers panel Layer List. Next to the C road layer, click to turn on the C road layer and the station labels. On the command line, enter Regen. Create a label style that is not affected by the parent object layer. Select label 0 plus 120 to select all major station labels. On the Properties palette, under Labeling, click the field next to Major Station Label Style. Click Create/Edit. In the Major Station Label Style dialog box, click Edit Current Selection. In the Label Style Composer dialog box, on the General tab, in the Label category, notice that the layer is 0. If a label style is set to layer 0, any of its color, line type, and line weight properties that are set to by layer or by block will inherit the corresponding properties of the layer on which the label resides. Click the Layout tab. In the Text category, notice that the color property for the station component is by layer. This means that the major station label text inherits the color of the layer to which the style refers. Because the label style refers to layer 0, the major station label text inherits the color of the label object layer, which is C road text. In the color row, click the value cell. Click and change the station component color to blue. Notice that the text color updates in the preview pane. Note: for greater control of color, line weight, and line type, keep all style components set to either by block or by layer, and the label style layer set to 0. Then, you can use the layers to modify these properties. This tutorial uses a specific color setting to demonstrate how layer settings affect styles. In the component name list, select tick. In the tick category, notice that the color property for the tick component is by layer. Click OK to apply the change in color to the major station component and exit the Label Style Composer and Major Station Label Style dialog boxes. Press ESC to deselect the labels. On the command line, enter Regen. Notice that while the ticks still inherit the red color from the zero text layer, the text is blue. Label style that uses color that differs from referenced layer. Add another label. Click Annotate tab, Labels and Tables panel, add Labels menu, Alignment single segment. When prompted to select a segment to label, click the alignment between stations 0 plus 060 and 0 plus 080. When a label appears on the alignment, press Enter to end the command. Segment label added to alignment. Select the new label. On the Properties palette, notice that the label is on zero text. When labels are created, they are placed on the layer specified for the label object in the Drawing Settings dialog box on the Object Layers tab. The drawing settings for this drawing specify that alignment labels are created on the zero text layer. On the Properties palette, click the field next to Line Label Style. Click Create/Edit. In the Line Label Style dialog box, click Edit Current Selection. In the Label Style Composer dialog box, on the General tab, in the Label category, notice that the layer style is zeroed BRNG. This means that if any of the color, line type, and line weight properties are set to by layer or by block, they inherit the corresponding properties of the zeroed BRNG layer, no matter what layer the label object is on. Click the Layout tab. Use the component name list to examine the properties of the various label components. Notice that the color of all the components is by layer, except for the direction arrow component. The label components that have their color property set to by layer are red because the color property of the zeroed BRNG layer is red. The direction arrow is blue because its color property is blue. Click Cancel to exit the Label Style Composer and Line Label Style dialog boxes. Examine the effects of layer visibility on the labels. Click Home tab, Layers panel, Layer List. Next to the zero text layer, click to turn off the zero text layer. The major station labels and ticks are hidden, but the tangent label you added is not. The station labels were hidden because they are on the zero text layer and their style refers to the zero text layer, which you turned off. The tangent label is still visible because, while you turned off the layer it is on, its style components refer to the zeroed BRNG layer, which is still visible. Station labels hidden. Notice that the STA0 plus 080 and STA0 plus 100 labels you changed in exercise 2, using a child label style are also still visible. This is because the rest of the major station labels use the perpendicular with tick style, which refers to layer 0. Labels STA equals 0 plus 060 and STA equals 0 plus 080 use the perpendicular with line and station emphasis styles, which refer to the zeroed LABL layer. Click Home tab, Layers panel, Layer List. Next to the zero text layer, click to turn on the zero text layer and the station labels. Exercise 4, Changing the dragged state of a label. In this exercise, you will modify a label style so that a label will display differently when it is dragged from its original location. Drag a label from its original location. Note: this exercise uses labels 5b.dwg with the modifications you made in the previous exercise. Zoom in so that you can see the 0 plus 040 station label on the West Street alignment. Click the label to select it and all the other major station labels. Click the grip and drag it away from the alignment. The label is now in its dragged state. The text and leader line are red because the dragged state of the label style is set to by layer. Keep this label in view so you can see the effects of format changes as you make them. Major station label 0 plus 040 in dragged state. Change the dragged state of the label. In Tool Space, on the Settings tab, expand Alignment Label Styles Station Major Station. Right-click Perpendicular with tick. Click Edit. In the Label Style Composer dialog box, click the Dragged State tab. In both the leader and dragged state components categories, notice that the color, line type, and line weight properties are all either by layer or by block. These settings indicate that when a label is in dragged state, it inherits these properties from either the layer on which the label resides or the block that contains it. Tip: because the preview pane does not show the dragged state of the label, position the Label Style Composer so that you can see a dragged state label in the drawing. Each time you change a label property, you can click Apply to see the effects. In the Dragged State Components area, change the display value to as composed. Click Apply. The label returns to the original layout property settings, and all other style controls in this area are disabled. This type of dragged state format is easy to apply, but is not suitable for all label types. In particular, note that the leader line does not adapt well to all possible dragged locations. Change the display value back to stacked text. Click Apply. If your label has multiple lines of text, the stacked text setting keeps them all stacked horizontally in a compact block. You can see this in action by dragging one of the curve labels from its layout location. Change each of the following property values. Click Apply after each change to see their effects. Leader type, spline leader. Border visibility, true. Border type, rounded rectangular. Border and leader gap, 2.0 mm. Leader attachment, top of top line. After you have applied all the changes that you want to see in the dragged state, click OK. Modified dragged state, major station label 0+040. Note: to return a dragged label to its original layout format, click the grip. Exercise 5, Changing a label style. In this exercise, you will learn several ways to change label styles. Change the label style of a single label object. Note: this exercise uses labels 5b.dwg with the modifications you made in the previous exercise, or you can open labels 5c.dwg from the Tutorials Drawings folder. Pan and zoom to the area at the end of the West Street cul-de-sac. Click the red curve label between stations 0+200 and 0+220 on West Street. Grips appear on the curve label, but no other labels are selected. This label is a single label object that is not part of a group of labels. Right-click the label. Click Properties. On the Properties palette, in the Curve Label Style list, notice that you can select a general curve label style. General styles can be applied to line and curve labels that annotate alignment, profile, or parcel segments. Select General Curve Label Style Radius only. The individual curve label style changes, but the remaining curve labels on the cul-de-sac are not affected. Press ESC to deselect the label. Curve label style changed. Change the label style of a group of label objects. Click the 0+220 station label. Grips appear on all the station labels, indicating that station label 0+220 is part of the station label group. Right-click the label. Click Properties. On the Properties palette, in the Major Station Label Style list, select Parallel with tick. The label style changes for all major station labels on West Street. Press ESC to deselect the major station labels. Major station label type group style changed. Change the label style of an individual label object that is part of a group. Ctrl+click the 0+060 station label. A grip appears only on label 0+060. The other major station labels are not selected. Right-click the label. Click Properties. On the Properties palette, in the Major Station Label Style list, select Perpendicular with line. The label style changes for only station label 0+060. The rest of the major station labels on West Street retain their current style. Press ESC to deselect the label. Major station label type style changed, STA, 0+060 only. Exercise 6, creating a label style that refers to another object. In this exercise, you will use the reference text component to create a single label style that annotates two objects of different types. Create a label style that refers to another object. Note: this exercise uses labels 5c.dwg with the modifications you made in the previous exercise. In Tool Space, on the Settings tab, expand the Alignment Label Styles Station Geometry Point Collection. Right-click Perpendicular with tick and line. Click Copy. In the Label Style Composer dialog box, on the Information tab, for name, enter Surface Elevation at Alignment Station. Click the Layout tab. You can use this tab to create and edit label style components. You will modify the existing line and geometry point components, and then create two new label components for the new label style. The first component will display the surface elevation, and the second component will display the alignment station. Under Component Name, select Line. Specify the following parameters. Start Point Anchor Component, tick. Start Point Anchor Point, middle center. Length, 15.00 mm. Under Component Name, select Geometry Point End Station. Specify the following parameters. Anchor Component, Line. Anchor Point, End. Attachment, middle left. X offset, 2.00 mm. Click the arrow next to. Click Reference Text. A reference text label component refers to other object types in the drawing, instead of to the object type you are labeling. In this case, the reference text component will refer to a surface object. In the Select Type dialog box, select Surface. Click OK. In the Label Style Composer dialog box, specify the following parameters. Name, elevation. Anchor component, geometry point end station. Anchor point, bottom left. Attachment, top left. Under text, in the contents row, click the value cell. Click. In the Text Component Editor dialog box, in the Preview pane, replace label text with L. Under Properties, select Surface Elevation. Click to move the Surface Elevation property to the Preview pane. The property block in the Preview pane should look like this. L. Click OK. In the Label Style Composer dialog box, click the General tab. Set the Flip Anchors with Text property to True. Using this setting ensures that when the labels are flipped to maintain plan readability, they will display as mirror images of the original labels. In the Label Style Composer dialog box, click OK. To apply the label style that refers to another object. In the drawing, pan to the intersection of the Main Street and East Street alignments. Click Annotate tab Labels and Tables panel, Add Labels menu, Alignment, Add/Edit Station Labels. Click one of the station labels on the East Street alignment. In the Alignment Labels dialog box, specify the following parameters. Type, Geometry Points. Geometry Point Label Style, Surface Elevation at Alignment Station. Click Add. In the Geometry Points dialog box, click to clear all checkboxes. Select the Alignment Beginning checkbox. Click OK. In the Alignment Labels dialog box, click OK. Drag the label to a clear location, if necessary. Notice that the label is added to the alignment, but the elevation value is displayed as These characters are displayed because you have not associated a surface with the elevation component. Label style that refers to an alignment and surface, with no surface associated with the label. Ctrl+click the surface elevation at alignment station label. Right-click. Click Label Properties. In the Properties palette, under Reference Text Objects, click the cell to the right of Surface Elevation at Alignment Station. Click the drop-down list and select the surface name that appears in the list. Examine the label. The surface elevation at the intersection of the alignments is now displayed. Label style that refers to an alignment and surface. Press ESC to deselect the label.